Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Hanging with Hobo live. Barely. Uh, I expected a little less than normal numbers. I keep changing the schedule up on you guys, and I know that makes it difficult if you are trying to plan. And I can't imagine people trying to plan their schedule around being able to catch Hobo live. But when it's always moving, I guess it can be challenging. And the intent was to be able to appeal to multiple hemispheres. And we'll get back to that. That's my goal. And I'll get back to regular more weekly activity soon. I hope. I have to. So thank you for those who are here. And I'm hoping that within the next couple of minutes, the number usually doubles in a short period of time. Right now I'm showing, it just jumped a few there. We'll give it a few minutes for folks to jump on, but I'm going to discuss this week's design, which was not the Nomies. Nomies was last week's. This week's was just a simple easel, and I'm going to answer I'm not going to go over the design process because that was in the video this week. But I'm going to address a few questions that were posed to me this week. I just haven't had time to answer, and I'm going to answer those now in the live stream because if one person's got that question, there's probably a few more. And then I'm going to show you a new idea, and I think it's a really cool idea based on this same concept. It's going to save you a tremendous amount of material, and I think it will open up the world, your world, to a lot of possibility for those who do craft shows and sell artwork and sell different things. I think this is going to potentially be a big deal for you. So I got a new take on this, a new idea, and we'll go over that too. I see we got a lot of our usual faces in here. We've got a few usual faces that have been missing for the last couple of weeks, and that bothers me a little bit. Hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's been staying warm this week. We had winter weather move through here 2 days this week. 2 different days it was snowing, and here in this wonderful township that I'm in, it's the snow is it's snowing at 8 o'clock, and it's 65 degrees at 3 o'clock. It don't last long, and that's been the way it was here. But with the wintry mix and the extremely cold air that's been going through, it's been rocking my world because I'm doing some remodeling, as a lot of you know, and it requires me going in and out of the door with 4x8 sheets of paneling or plywood and trying to cut outside instead of in the house and holding that up in 30-mile-an-hour winds is not fun. And if it's inclement weather, you can't go out there anyway. So a lot of time wasted this week, but a lot of stuff accomplished too. So let's see here. And I don't see any new names in the list, but just in case, if you're new, this is your first chance to hang out with Hobo Live. If you have any questions pertaining, if you've already watched this week's video and you have a question that I'm not getting ready to answer, by all means, bring it up here and I'll be glad to discuss them and answer them to the best of my ability. And like I said, I think you will really appreciate the new idea with this design. And as it is, it's a simple, in fact, I call it just a simple easel. It's a 2-piece easel. This is a 6mm solid not plywood. That's solid maple plaques that I do a lot of artwork on. And then this is just made out of 3mm Baltic birch, and a simple little kickstand that slides through and has a little place for the plaque to sit on. And I put a little nameplate on it so you can label your artwork or do whatever you wanted to do there. But its main purpose is to keep it from sliding forward and sliding off of the easel. But I got a new idea on this that I think is pretty ingenious. Oh my goodness. Yeah, see, we our numbers are jumping. But for those, if there are any new folks in the stream, the way I like for you to post any questions, if you read that there, if you have a question, precede your question with 3 question marks. If you have a comment that's like, hey, dum dum, don't do it that way, try this. Put 3 exclamation points and let me see your comment so I can acknowledge it. And I appreciate it if we handle it that way. Let's see here. We enjoy all 4 seasons lately in the same day. Yeah, it's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And you know what's really funny? What was I watching today? I was getting caught up on the TV show Matlock, the new version. With what's her name, Kathy Bates. It's actually pretty good. But I was watching one of the previous episodes, and for a while now, you've heard a lot of people in social media and different circles talking about, oh, they're spraying again. Look at all them. They're spraying. Look at all them trails. They're seeding the clouds, or they're spraying, and it's chemicals. And a lot of people know those are just contrails. Those are condensation trails from jetliners. Well, now the episode of Matlock that I just watched was actually a lawsuit between 2 different scientific companies that were in the cloud seeding business, and so so now they're embracing it, or they're trying to make it mainstream by putting it out there in pop culture for you. The world is a strange place. Squirrel. But yeah, the 4 seasons, the weather is that's what's brought. The weather is just nuts. It can be. We'll be 30 degrees and swing around to 65 in the same day. I like to stay on my computer to converse, but I got a cold, so going to bed, but we'll watch on Roku YouTube. All right. Well, thank you, Desert Flowers. All right. I'm going to mark this spot. So, yeah, a little less numbers than I would like to see, but I blame that on me for the jumping around. So, one of the questions that was brought up to me about the design here, and I didn't go over it very much in the video, was how did I determine the angle that I wanted that to be at? I showed how I did it, but I didn't talk about why that angle, or how did I determine that was the angle that I wanted. So let's look at that first. And I'm not going to go over everything about this process because it's in the video. You'll have to go back and look at it, but I'm going to show you this part, and that will lead to another question along the same lines. So let's go over here and open the simple easel. All right, so if you downloaded it from Hobo with Wood, it would come across like this. I actually have 2 easels nested on a piece of 300 by 300. I'm going to get rid of one of them for now, just to keep things from getting confusing. But that's what the 3 pieces look like. And the question was, how did I determine the angle? Well, I drew out using the black layer, just a straight line, and said, okay, that was the tabletop or the countertop, whatever it's going to be sitting on. And then I used another layer to create the face of the artwork. And I got to get my pencil tool and drew it to the line. And then I used another straight line on another layer for the kickstand, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Right now, just talking about this. This is the face of the artwork. And we don't want it standing straight up and down. We want it reclined at an angle for optimum viewing. And I was like, well, how did you determine what was best? Or how did you figure? So what I did was, I didn't want to undo that. Let's put that back on the selector tool. So if I got that selected and I put my anchor point at the bottom center, because it's just a straight line at this point, and I actually used a rectangle in the demonstration in the video, but right now it's a straight line. And so I've got my anchor point at the bottom center. Now with that selected, I can come right up here to the rotate tool. And if you want to rotate clockwise, you use a positive number. If you want to rotate counterclockwise, then you're going to use a negative number. And in this case, I want to rotate the top of this piece backward or counterclockwise. So I need to use a negative value. And since in this case, I don't know what the value is, that's what I'm trying to find, then I use these down arrows right here, the up and down arrows. Each time you click it, it's going to rotate -1, and it's not live. There we go. There's 2 degrees. There's 3 degrees. There's 4 degrees. Each time I do that, it's rotating so I can see what angle I want it to be. And I did that until I figured out that I wanted it to be at a -20-degree angle. For me, that's what I like as far as a viewing concept. And when we do this new idea, you might change it. Maybe you don't want it reclined that much, but that's how I determined what that angle would be. So if I put that back to straight up and down to 20 degrees, there we go. So that is how I determined what the angle was going to be. There we go, aligned. Now, I use 2 different layers there, the black and the blue, and then I use a third layer. Right now, I'm going to put all this on the same layer and do all this because I explained in the video why I did it, but they were like, I don't understand why you needed to do that in 3 layers. Didn't need to, didn't have to, but some folks, for me, and maybe some others, want to keep those lines separate, and I was using scissor tools, and you'll see what happens. And actually, let me look and see if there's any questions. Nope. All right, good. All right, so everybody's square on that. That was simple. And so if I take both of these lines and put them all on the same layer, didn't mean to do that. Get rid of that tool path. Delete. There we go. So now I've got those 2 lines on the same layer, and now I'm going to come right here and draw out the third line, which is going to be the kickstand, or how I'm trying to determine how far out the back of that board did that kickstand or that back of that piece need to extend in order for this to recline at 20 degrees. So I drew the line excessively long, and then I selected both of those. You can group them, and then with it, the anchor point at the bottom right corner, and it's important that you move that anchor point out here to the bottom right so that it will pivot, because you see these, and I have not mentioned this in a video, and I keep meaning to, so you're getting to see it for the first time here now. So everybody, pat yourself on the back for being here. You've heard me refer to those circles up there as anchor points. Well, I want you to imagine, if you will, these 9 dots up here. I don't know if I said 6, but 9. There's 9 dots. And I call these the anchor points. Imagine, if you will, these 9 dots are these 9 squares of your selected item. Okay. You with me? So I've got my anchor here at that lower right corner. So that's right here. If I move my anchor up here, then it's anchored right here in the design. That part of the design is anchored. It will not move. And if I change any part of the design, if I scale it, you don't, it's not just about rotation. It's about scaling. It's about everything. I've got my aspect ratio locked, and I tell it I want it to be 50% of its size. Well, if I tell it right now to go 50%, watch what happens to it. Right now, I've got it sitting on this line, but when I say 50% with the anchor point at the top right, it draws it up and away up here to that top right selector. All right. So if I go back and undo, and if I change that anchor point to here, and I say I want it to be 50%, it draws it down to that lower left. So I have intended to do this multiple times to try and relate those dots to you guys. Those dots directly correlate to these squares. And wherever you drop your anchor, in this case, I'm going to put it right here. So it's anchored right there. And now I want to rotate it counterclockwise toward the left. Then I'm going to use a negative value up here. And I already determined that I wanted it 20 degrees. So if I rotate it negative 20 degrees, that stayed in position and it rotated it back. That gives me the angle of my artwork. And from there to there is the length of my kickstand. Plain and simple. But if I look at my measurement tool, it's measuring that entire line, measures that entire line, measures that entire. I only want to see that segment from here to here. How many ways are there to do things in Lightburn? A whole bunch of ways you could do this. A whole bunch of ways. You could go into node editing, and because these are grouped, you can't see the nodes, so you have to ungroup it. And now go into node editing, and I could insert a node right there, letter I to insert, and then when I use the measurement tool, I can see just that section from there, from that node to the end of the line. And it tells me that the segment is 57.96 millimeters long. 58 millimeters. 58 millimeters would be the segment that I needed. Now, if that's all you needed was just to know the length of that piece, you're done. You're ready to go. But what I will do, and in fact, in the video, I didn't use lines. I used rectangles so I could see the width of the piece and showed how the corners, because when if it's a flat bottom 6 millimeter piece, if you were doing something out of thick material and you rotate it 20 degrees backward, it's not sitting flat on the surface. It's only sitting on the corner. And the same thing goes for your kickstand. It's got a 90 degree corner on it, or it's got a 90 degree corner on it. When you have it reclined or inclined, it's sitting there. So I used rectangles in the video to show how that changes and why you want to look at which measurement you want to look for. But I also do this, and I'm looking for questions while I'm stopped here. And no, all right, good. I'm glad that we're seeing a couple of ones and twos, because this is for those, like, I call it a simple easel, because it is a simple, really simple design, and it's really easy to do. But there were just a few questions that come up. Like I said, how did you figure that out? And all right, and before I move on to the rectangles, why did I use separate layers? That's where we were going there. Hey, Gilroy, glad you can make it. All right, so go back over here. All right, I said there was always more than one way. So if I deleted that node, and now when I try to use that measurement tool and I try to measure that line, I get that entire line. Well, I can use the scissor tools and just cut that line off. And I can see, oh, get a measurement tool. Now I can see there it is, 57.96. So that's even simpler than going and putting a node in, just cut that off. But the problem with that, not the problem, but a problem with that is if that line happened to be, in fact, let's do this. Let's go back. If for whatever reason you just so happen to have the end of this line right there, wherever your intersection is going to be, if it was right there and you were going to use the scissor tools and you cut that off right there, see what happens? It joins it together. And if you were working, or if you intended to use just this segment as part of your design element, well, now it's part of this and it's no longer a separate piece. So that's why I used different layers, because let's see, get rid of, I don't want, actually I'll do undo. There we go. And we'll put it back. Because now if I were to put this back on the black layer and I put this one on the blue layer, when I start using my scissor tools, it'll cut like I want it to. It'll trim to there, and I can take that and trim it to there, and I can trim that off. And I've got, but nothing will weld itself together. If all that was on the same layer, this would weld here and here, and it would be one piece. It would no longer be three separate segments. So for the person that asked, why did I use different layers? That's why I use different layers. Is just to help me along with the design process, the way that this brain functions. All right. And if you get in here, it can be a little bit. All right. I see. Gary, I acknowledge Kilroy. Hey, Kilroy. Chris says in version 2, they've, oh, yeah. I see a lot of Chris. You mentioned a couple of changes in version 2 that were coming, and I've seen a lot of people who have downloaded and playing with the beta, and I've seen a few people have put some videos out on that already. Well, with my world absolutely on fire, I don't have time to research and play with that right now, and I'll be completely candid with you. I don't like anything about version 2 that I've seen. I don't like the stacked menus. I just don't. But I also understand why they did what they did. They did it because, I think mainly because of a screen resolution problem. I've mentioned many times for the folks out there that struggle with using Lightburn, and they find out they're using laptops. Well, laptops and Lightburn have notoriously not got along. They just don't. A lot of my problems in my first early days almost always went back to the root of the problem resulting from it being done with a laptop. And a lot of it goes back to the screen resolution and the abilities of the laptop's screen and resolution. So they started stacking menu items so that was no longer a problem with laptops. But anyway, yeah, I thought when I saw it, it would play havoc with your workflow. Yeah, you don't. It's not as easy to just click and go. You got to click, and click. It's like a flow chart. For those who ever had to create flow charts, and if you ever did programming, okay, well, I want to do this, and then I want to go from here to here. But if I want to get to here, you got to go here, here, and here. You can't just go there. You've got to. It's a tree, and I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Anyway, back to whenever I'm creating, and while I was doing these, I did them with rectangles, and I'll show you why I did it with rectangles. Switch. Actually, I'm gonna leave my surface piece in place. So there's the tabletop or the countertop surface, whatever the item's going to be sitting on. And then I say, okay, well, if I'm designing or if I'm going to be designing the piece to work with 3mm material, then I'm going to go ahead and tell it 3mm wide and the aspect ratio is locked. That's fine. And I don't care about the height right now. And my anchor point was down at the bottom. And that's why when I changed a lot of things happened there. I changed the width, and because the aspect ratio is locked, it also changed the height. And because the anchor point was down here in the lower right, it caused it to get wider and taller and jump up from where it was at because where the anchor point was at. So you really should pay attention to where your anchor point's at, especially if you've already set your piece in it's what is going to be its ultimate position. Like right now, I say that's aligned to that. And if I was to change this and say, okay, actually, I need it to be, and if the anchor point was up in the top and I wanted it to be only 2.5mm, well, now I've just lost my position. So if I put that back, and then if I say, okay, well, the bottom center, the bottom right is where I want it to be, and I changed it to 2.5. Well, it kept it aligned to the outer edge of the table or the surface there, whatever that would be, and it just brought the height, width, and all down because the anchor point of that piece was set right there and it didn't move. But I'm working with 3mm. That's where I wanted. Then I grabbed another layer. Oh, put that back there. And that's another thing I don't like. And now I will say this, Chris, I do like the one I told you there was nothing I didn't like about version 2. There was one thing that I liked. And and there is a setting, folks, in version 2 that will allow you to set, I think it was like set the default to, it goes back to the selector tool when you finish doing something. So like there, I had to go back and get the selector tool. Well, in the settings, you can set that so that when you complete a task, it reverts back to the selector tool. So if you draw a pentagon and then all of a sudden now you want to draw an ellipse, well, you draw the pentagon and it's going to default back to the selector tool. Then you drop down and just pick your circle. Yeah, I like having the default go back to the selector tool. I did like that. All right, so grab my rectangle and let's draw out on a different layer. There we go. And put it here. And it needs to be, we'll put that in the center and we'll say it's 3mm. Oh, and see there? I put it in the middle so it drew it away from the edge. If I'd have said center right and said 3mm, then it kept it right there close to where I wanted it. Now I will go ahead and align it. There we go. Now, if I take these two pieces and I rotated it, let's see, -20, and there we go. I didn't have my anchor point at the right place again. See, I had the anchor point up in the middle. I'm a little scatterbrained tonight. I've been burning candle hard. I did a positive number that time. Negative number, -20. There we go. So if if that's and then also I showed in the video, because the anchor point was here, that dropped this back corner below the surface of the material. So this is now not an accurate length. You need to move those, group them, and move it up above the tabletop or the surface. Alt Shift V. Oh, come on. Okay. It's still touching back there. I need to bring that corner to there. And now that distance would be the correct length of that piece, as long as I had that positioned at the right height. And once I get that set up, if I wanted to use this piece for whatever reason instead of a straight line, I could get my length set to get it here. 36.94. Ungroup it. That overall length needs to be 36.94. So I can rotate that back 20 degrees, make it 36.94. And it was really darn close, 36.94. And now I've got the right length that I need it to be. Well, now if I know that's the length, but now I'm going to transition from talking about the length to the width of the piece. So I want it to be overall 4 inches wide. And I'm looking at it this way. Unlock my aspect ratio, and we'll say 114.3. We'll give it 4.5 inches. And with my aspect ratio or my anchor point in the wrong spot, it jumped way up there. But there, I've got the length of the overall kickstand, and I've just changed the width of it. So now I'm talking about how wide it is across here. And I couldn't do that if I was working with a line, but working with a rectangle, I can just take that rectangle and just start using it in different ways to create that. But the lightning bolt, you'll have to tell me if you think this is a good idea. I think it's a pretty genius idea because it's my idea. This is an opportunity to save material and make some. When people go into Hobby Lobby and they buy all this ridiculous stuff out of China, and it's just signs that they hang on their wall that eat, pray, love, smile, God loves you, whatever. It's everywhere. The aisles are filled with all this random artwork with random sayings on it. Well, if you're doing art shows and craft fairs and you're marketing something like this, well, this is an expensive item. This is not going to sell at a craft fair because this is 6-inch solid maple, 6 millimeter solid maple 5x7 plaque. And something like this, I think I was put them on my website at $49.99, $50. You ain't going to sell a single one of those at a craft fair because at a craft fair, everybody's wanting something cheap. But you can do something that looks really, really nice with practically no money in it and sell them for $14 or $15 a piece and make a lick. And I think this is the idea for that. And it stems from the basic, simple easel. So for those who were late to the show, you got here in time for the meat. All right. I'm going to mark this spot because I got a feeling there might be a few questions. All right. So I'm going to get rid of this. If you've already got the simple easel from the website, hobowithwood.com, you're already a step ahead of the game. Or if you've already designed your own following the instructions and the demonstration in the video from this week, you're ahead of the game. If not, you'll need to do one of those two things. This week's video was a step-by-step how I did that, and it is on the website. So when we open it from the website, this is what you get. That toolpath is a 300 by 300 piece of material, and it has 2 easels on it. Well, what if just what, and I talked about this in the video. You can modify this easel fairly easily. I want to take one of these and bring it over here. And these internal pieces right here, it's grouped. Everything's grouped. Your slot here for your kickstand, as I call it. And these are individual pieces too. So I'm going to leave my slot where it's at. If I select these two, get rid of it. And then let's say, let's draw out a 5x7 rectangle. Five by 7. There we go. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put it in the middle. And I'm going to use my node editing tool and get rid of all these up here for right now. So it's not that I know better, and I do this all the time. I hit the delete button, and I should not have hit the delete button. I should have hit the letter D as in David in node editing. So Control Z, undo that, select those, hit the letter D, delete those. Now with those deleted, it's no longer proud and sticking above that. I'm going to come over here and select my 5x7 and select this and weld those together. Weld those together. And actually, you know what? Before I do that, let's do this. Control Z. I'm going to hold my control button and I'm going to draw down and create a couple of negative inverted radiuses, I guess, or radii, some negative radiuses, concave corners. All right, and now I got that, and I'm gonna select that, and now weld that back together. And now I'm going to grab one of these and I'm going to use my less than key to rotate it. I'm going to put it right here because that looks like where I can nest it best for the least amount of waste. And I'm going to grab one of these, bring it over here for right now. Let's grab both those, delete that. Go ahead and delete this, get rid of it. There we go. Grab this, bring it over here. I'm going to use my less than key again to rotate it twice. And how many ways are there to do things in Lightburn? I want to get at least 2 pieces out of this material. So if that's going to be the shape of my product, I'm going to lock my aspect ratio, and I'm looking at my widest measure, or the largest measurement. Is it the width or the height? And in this case, it's, or actually, you know what? I'm going to try just doing it by the, I'm going to try doing it by the width. I'm going to tell this to go to, I've got aspect ratio locked. I'm going to tell it to go to 300 millimeters. So now I've got it, and you notice where my anchor point was at and where it blew up from. Let's put it in the center of that piece. All right, so that's utilizing the entire width of that piece. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select it again. And this is absolute, and thank you, David. Thank you for that. Well, God bless you, sir. Thank you very, very much. I do greatly appreciate it. I really do. One of the biggest mistakes that I get from people when I tell people my designs are scalable in Lightburn, you can scale the design to make it any size you want it to be. Well, that doesn't mean you can take that one piece and scale it to the size you want. You have to scale the entire design at one time. You have to scale the entire image, or at the same time, or else it's going to be out of proportion and it won't work. So if I select this and this, and I've got aspect ratio locked, and I'm going to tell the width to go to 50%, and I'm going to group that temporarily, and I'm going to put it in the corner. Oh, I got to select that. Goes to the corner of that. No, that's the wrong way to do that. Go that way and go that way. There we go. I was trying to put it in the corner of the workspace and it was already there. All right, so now that I can Control D, duplicate it, move it over here, and that two pieces would go out of a 300 by 300, but you don't want to go full 300 by 300. You want to leave yourself a little margin. So aspect ratio locked, and let's say if you wanted to leave yourself about a 5mm room for error, then you're going to leave 5 mil here, 5 mil here. You're going to make it a maximum width of 290. So aspect ratio locked, tell it to go 290 mil, and then if you have your move arrow set to 1mm or whatever you want it to be, mine's shift arrow, so 1, 2, oh, wrong way. Select all of that and up arrow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can get two pieces cut out of that 300 by 300 artwork. This piece right here is 145 by 128, or almost 5 by 5. It's almost square. And I'm going to rotate it around. So now you're looking at this image. And if you were to take and put you a toolpath in here, I didn't want to change the whole thing. Undo. Selector tool, toolpath, rectangle, and let's do something like that right there. And tell it to go to the center. And we'll move it up about like that. You could use that to take and do the actual engraving on that piece. If you're going to do just a simple sign, even if you want to do something like that with the recipe, engrave it on that piece. Take this out of the way. We've just taken this easel, did away with these support looking items, made this a solid almost 5 by 5 piece of what do you call those? Canvas. There we go. We just made a canvas that we can put our image on, and we've still got a kickstand and the slot that we just scaled everything that was going to work just fine. Take that, put that in place. You can lose this piece right here if you wanted to, because you don't need that any longer. Or you can use that to label whatever the artwork is. Or if you were going to do Bible verses, you could do the verse, and then down here you could put the book, chapter, and verse. These I'm just spitballing, but I do like these ideas. What do you guys think? What do you think about? Because now if you're buying the premium Baltic birch 3mm like I am, 45 sheets at a time, you're having about $2 in material in that piece, and you're able to cut two signs out of $2 piece of material. You got $1 in each one. You sand it, finish it, put a little lacquer on it, and you can put it on your shelf out there at your craft show for $12.99 or $14.99. And if you're in the right market, you might even do it at $19.99. What are you going to go in Hobby Lobby and buy for $15 that's not on sale? I think that would be a really cool way to generate a ton of inventory and a way to fill up your table at the craft fairs with a lot of neat things that you can make some huge markup on. I think it'd be great. Ashra says, brilliant idea. I love it. Yeah, love those ideas. Yeah, great idea. Okay, good. Then it's not just me. I think that's a really, really cool idea. You'll need to keep your edges on here because that's what keeps it from sliding all the way through and out the back. So you're going to have a little bit of a ledge on the front of it. It doesn't have to be. You could narrow it so it's not as big. You could even, in fact, go over here to Lightburn. If you knew that you were not going to be actually using this as a shelf setter for your artwork, and this was what you ended up having as your final size for that kickstand, then you could, if you wanted, and this is going to sit flush against the back. So let's grab a toolpath. There's a toolpath. Grab a rectangle and put it here. That's not quite right, but we'll say that's going to be, and let's put our anchor point in the right spot, anchor point in the middle top, and say 3 mil. Was close, 3 mil. And aspect ratio was locked, so that messed that up. So let's just shrink it down. So it's going to be about like that. That's going to be the backboard. The kickstand is sticking through there. And if you just want to have if you want to keep that label on there, so like if you were going to do the scriptures and this is going to be your chapter and verse, you can move those slots. In fact, you could actually group them, move them to the edge, Control Shift V. Now you wouldn't want to leave them there because you see what happens there. I would probably bring them up, and I've got my shift arrow set to 1 millimeter. I'd bring them up 1, 2, 3. But then I could grab that whole outer perimeter, go to Node Editing Tool, and just grab those that make up the radius there, holding Shift and down arrow. I'm going to bring those down and change the overall width. In fact, if I bring it to there, you can see it's close, almost lined up, but I want to leave them maybe for strength. I'm going to leave 2.5 millimeters on there. So now it's not sticking out as far. That's just the toolpath showing you where the board's going to be. Because what I'm curious, because depending on what you wanted to make, and depending on what if in fact you could do multiple price points. Maybe you don't want to have a 5x5 plaque that's sitting there that you're selling for $14.99. What if you had a cute little 3x4 that you're selling for $9.99? Well, you could shrink this down even more and get 4 items out of one piece of $2 material and have something be really cute and that would probably sell pretty quick. And also, another thing to think about when you're selling stuff at fairs, people that they're usually going to be there for a couple hours. And typically they don't want to walk around carrying anything that's big or bulky or heavy for sure. So something that was even smaller, that was, 3x3, that they could carry and put, gently put in there. Actually, since it's not, you could disassemble it, and it's not going to be fragile because that's going to be a solid square. And the only thing that'd be fragile might be your little piece that you had there. But they could disassemble it and put it in their jacket pocket or put it in their purse or whatever. But you could actually size these down to where you could get 4 items out of a 300 by 300 piece and sell them for $9.99 or less. You can do them for $4.99 if you wanted to, because you're not going to, at that point, you're only going to have 50 cents in it. Oh my goodness. All right. Questions or comments? Questions or comments? Tom says it's a great idea. This is a great idea for the modification. I am seeing how it will work in my world. Yeah, tons of possibilities. Tons of possibilities. Florida Templars, I got my wheels turning. That's good. As long as they ain't spinning in place, you're going places. Just did a sign for someone that does a lot of fairs. Buy now, collect on your way out. Yeah, that can work. I just I like to keep it simple, stupid. I like the KISS method in all things that I do. And the idea that somebody spends, $9 with me, or even they spend $20 with me, whatever they're buying, and it's okay. Yeah, you can pay for it. It's yours. I'll put it on there, mark sold, put it, and maybe you can even still leave it on display to show people what you do. If you got to be back here in an hour to pick it up, an hour and a half later, they still haven't made it back there because they forgot to come and get it. You don't have contact information. Yeah, I like to keep it simple, stupid. You paid for it; it's yours. You do what you want to do with it. That would work great for an engraved slate coaster set. As far as for displaying the coasters, could probably change it for a business card. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, definitely be a business card holder. I've got a really neat business card holder on the website. It's got living hinges on it and looks kind of cool and freaky. But this would be a much, much simpler design and less fragile. I like the look of living hinges, but I hate how fragile they can become. All right. So, has anybody got any questions about what I've talked about, or any questions about if you've watched the video and you still have issues or questions about anything? Chris says, yeah, I told them they need to get contact numbers if they did that. Yep. Yeah, because somebody's going to mess up your day. And then they're going to blame you because they didn't do what they were supposed to. Oh, there was one other thing I was going to show you. Not about this design, about the easel, but just a refresher about flood fill. Because I used that when I did this little guy. And so a reminder to those who have seen flood fill, and those that didn't see flood fill, something to check out. Let's see here. Switch over. Let's get rid of that. And for my, I keep switching back and forth. Sorry if I'm making you sick. For my patrons, I don't know if it was this month or last month, they got one of my art libraries were for some of my frames that I use for doing images like this. And in fact, here are some of the older easels that I used to do, but they were really though I didn't like them. You've seen these where they interlock together and they form a, crisscross at a 45 degree. And then you've got I like this new, I want to delete that. I like this new simple easel a whole lot better than these interlocking designs. I like the simple easel much, much better. But let's go over here. Frames. Got to spell it correctly. There we go. Frames. So I've got a bunch of these frames that there's 25 of them that I shared with my gold patrons 1 month. But this is something similar to what I did on the menu. But I'll show you how to create this and also show you a real quick tip on how to engrave it. Question I see popping up here. There, Larry. Where did you get the wood for the oatmeal cookie recipe? I do not. My solid maple, my solid hardwoods, my solid wood pieces, my real wood. I get the majority of it from West Penn Hardwoods, and a lot of this stuff, they sell it in project packs, and they have free shipping. So for me, I can drive up there. They're 45 minutes away from me. I can drive up to West Penn Hardwoods, even though it's West Penn from West Pennsylvania. They're here in North Carolina now. So I can drive up there and grab it. But no matter where you're at in the U.S., they do not ship internationally because of all the problems with international shipping and wood being a living thing, or was. But it's pretty much, I think, free shipping in the continental U.S. on project packs. But the project packs on westpennhardwoods.com or wphardwoods.com, you can buy them by species. And sometimes they'll come in as wide as 6-inch boards. Some of them are 3/4 inch thick. Most of them are 4 or 5 millimeters, and then all the way down to 3 millimeters. But I'll get those random project packs, and they're a place, and I can use those where I can process them and then glue them up and make plaques like that. So no, I don't have a link for that. Sorry about that, Larry. That's Hobo with Wood doing the real woodwork. Yeah, Chris says, wood never dies till it stops warping. All right, so back over here. Something like this is a really, really easy design to make. And let's delete that. I'm going to start with a rectangle. I ain't going to worry about the size or dimensions. We're just going to start with a rectangle. Put it on a path that you can see. There we go. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and give it actually, you know what? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it some, and the way I get those radius, I'm holding the control button. See that little purple dot pop up there, flashing? If I press and hold, I'll get my control button. I get that little circle. Now I can draw down and get those concave corners, or if I draw it across the top, you get the radius. But I want to give it something like that. Now that I've got that overall shape, I'm going to come over here to offset, and I'm going to give it a, let's say a 0.5 millimeter offset inward, and say okay. Not deleting the original, and I am using corners. And then I'm going to come right back to the offset tool, and this time I'm going to give it, let's see what a 3 looks like. Let's go 2. 2.5. Yep. Say okay, and just grab the selector tool again, or the offset tool again. I'm going to do that same 2.5, so I've got equal distance away. And then I'm going to do another offset again, and this time I'm going to do that 0.2. Or what was the first one I did? I can't remember, so I'm going to eyeball it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so I can zoom in and see. So yeah, so I got a little thin one there, a straight line here, and then we'll give this one, say, 2 mil. Yeah. And say, okay. This guy I'm going to put on toolpath. And now if I select that, you can see if I put it in fill mode, you're starting to see that frame generate. Now, if I want to create that stitch looking around there, I'm going to draw a rectangle. And the reason it's doing that is I'm holding shift, not holding shift, holding control, not. And sometimes I hold the button out of habit when I don't want to. And I want my stitch size to be about like that. I'm just eyeballing these. I'm going to zoom in, hold control, and I'm going to round that off completely. And then I'm going to bring it down here and put it right there on the corner and center it up. And we can go ahead and put it on the blue layer if we want to. Now with that selected, hold my shift button and select the toolpath, arrange. And you know, I'm going to zoom out first. Zoom out so I can see this a little bit. So select my rectangle, hold shift, select that toolpath, arrange, and copy along path. And you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 copies because that's what I've told it to create. But I'm just going to start with 100 copies. And that looks okay, but they're pointed the wrong way. Well, then turn on rotate copies. And now it's going to rotate and follow that contour. See how they rotated around there? And 100 might be too many stitches. Let's take her down to 80. And now that I see that, I'm like, yeah, that's a little bit fat. So I can just hit cancel. Come back up here to my stitch. Select my stitch only. Come on. There we go. And maybe I just shrink her down to there. And you don't have to put it in the corner, but I start it in the corner. Arrange, copy along path, and go back to 80 again. Rotate copies. And 80 is not enough with the smaller one. Let's take her to 85, 86. That looks good. Say okay. So now I just created that frame that I showed you that I have there. And that was really, really fast. But you can do that with rectangles. You can do it with different shapes. And we're not going to do a frame lesson tonight as far as how-tos, because I can get on a whole tangent and squirrel. Jer says, another thought is to do the recipe on thinner material like 3 mil, build a box that it would go in and can go in and have like 10 recipes. Oh yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of possibilities. All right, guys. I have had a very, very long week, and I've got another very, very long week coming up. I think it was David that gave, David. Thank you again, David. It is greatly appreciated right now, more than you could possibly know, unless you're a gold, or unless actually not gold. If you're a patron, then you know. And let's see, I think I will put in a suggestion to proportionally space with copy on path. Proportionally. I don't know that I quite follow what you're thinking, Chris. I think I will put in a suggestion to, I get the proportionally spaced with copy. I'm sure you've got a valid reason for, but I'm not following what the benefit of that would be. But I'm sure you do, because you're smarter than the average bear. Fixes ends to be even. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. And it does a pretty, and in fact, if we jump back over here, and thank you, Tom. Thank you so very, very much. Go back over here. Switch. The blue one is the one that I just created, and I've got corner. I got 1, 2, 3 ends in a corner. 1, 2, 3 starting in the corner. 1, 2, 3 starting or ending in a corner. So and if you when you're, and this is a big tip, because some of the menus or some of the tools you use, you can have a live screen, so you can zoom in and out while you're doing it. But when you do copy along path, wherever you are with the vision, whatever you see on the screen, when you start copy along the path, that's all you're going to see. You will not be able to scroll out and zoom out and look at the image. You can't change your view. So that's why I zoomed out and did the copy along path once I could see the entire image. So I guess maybe, you wouldn't have to do that if that ability was there, Chris. Everything would stay, if I understand what you're trying to accomplish. All right. So all right. So you guys know I don't get on here and hawk item after item after item. I don't try and get you to purchase stuff constantly. I don't show you a new widget every week. Uh, if I do ask you to like, share, and subscribe. If you like what you see and you want to help continue this channel, please consider going over to Patreon and becoming a patron. Bronze patrons get 60% off all of my digital files. Silver gets 80% off, and gold gets 100% off. I am available to help you with design issues and questions. Even right now, with my head on fire, I try to help people solve problems. I'm a little bit stretched thin on trying to create designs for folks right now. Normally, I don't bat an eyelash. I'll do that, but right now, I just don't. I don't like making designs and sending the file out there that I have not tested, because it's kind of, I mean, that's I've got my name on that, and I send it out and it don't work. Well, that wasn't real good. So I don't like sending untested files out. And right now I don't have time to test the stuff that I design. So, but I'm still available to help you with questions and problems, issues, light burn related, or, design related. Let's see. I can't remember. Do you have no, Chris, I don't have a 3D printer because, a couple of times that I was approached by different people, they were wanting to send me beginner trinket things that I have no desire to even look at. If I was going to get a 3D printer, then it's going to be one of the fastest, highest output, most rapid 3D printers you can get, because I'm impatient and I'm not going to send a job to the printer and then come back in 3 days to see what's completed. I have no desire to have anything like that. So I've not invested in one, and the folks that want to send me something, they want to send me junk. So I've not even gone down that road. I get solicited multiple times a week, folks, for people wanting to send me new lasers, new this, new that. I am talking to, I think, Atom Stack right now about a new laser they've got coming out that's pretty cool, but there's two things about it that made it attractive. One, it's a dual head laser. So there are two lasers on the gantry. Now, you're not going to be able to do two separate designs because they're locked together. They're on the same gantry. But you, like tonight, where I was just showing you where you could put two images on one 300 by 300 piece of material. I don't know if you could do it on 300 by 300 because they're going to have to be spaced certain distance apart. I don't know how that spacing, but you can engrave two pieces at the same time with this new Atom Stack they got coming out. It's a dual head laser. That's one thing I liked about it, was the dual head. You're doubling your productivity with a diode. The other thing that they were promoting that they had that Rolly's talked about, but they just haven't got it perfected yet, not to Rolly's standards, and I salute them for that, is the conveyor. There are a few lasers out there that have conveyors. Some of them work. Some of them use the conveyor and the programming and the ability to scan the items and make sure everything's lined up. Some of them are really, really super advanced. But Atom Stack's conveyor, they promote with this new dual head laser. I said, all right, yeah, I'm interested. Send me one. Then they backed up and said, well, we don't have the conveyor ready yet. And I'm like, well, I'm only interested if you've got the conveyor. So I don't, I tell people, manufacturers all week long, nope, not interested. Nope, not interested. Nope. Because I'm not going to be, the fat guy sitting here going, hey, look, you need this, and this is why you need this. I'm only going to show you new and exciting things. And then only if they hold up to their bragging rights. Uh, do, 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 do. Chris says, yeah, they need a turbo button. Talking about the diodes. Well, and I used to, and I did. I've got a CO2 sitting right here on the other side of the camera that I was able to get and thought that I wanted because I needed to do faster work and the CO2 is faster, but the quality is not the same. Fast and it's just not. And that's like when I do these pieces, and before you say anything, yes, I know it's spelled wrong. I didn't know it at first because that's why it's spelled wrong. But the quality of that, how dark it is, and the precision of that, you can't get that going so fast and get it that dark and looking that good and that crisp. I'm doing this real low speeds. I'm doing this at like let's see, that's about 720 millimeters a minute and only about 9% power, real low power and real low speed. But man, is it detail and crisp. It's perfection. Faster you go, the muddier it can get. Brad says no Atom stack, and it's horrible. I have a $2,000 paperweight, worst company. I'll argue with you, Brad. I don't know if they're the worst company ever because I've got an Atom stack. It's only the 5-watt. Don't use it very much. I would argue with you and say, and this is one of those things where I say there's multiple realities. In my reality, the worst company out there is Xfull. Horrible customer service, horrible experience. Hobo with Wood almost didn't exist because of my experiences with Xfull. But I do recognize that you have had a problem and that your feelings are valid. I do not discount them. You have the right to feel the way you do. But I have not had that experience with my Atom stack. At the same time, I've not had to try to reach out to them for support or help. I haven't had any issues with it. So had I had issues and problems, I may have developed the same feelings you do. No, Jim's any experiences or tips with the infrared? I started to get that module. I didn't get it because I don't have a whole lot of use for that personally. And I've said it before, and I've got it in my thumbnail there, hobowithwood.com/Rolly. If you're going to look at buying a Rolly, and I've got 2 of them sitting here. I got this one, and right now the other one, the smaller one's buried over here, but it's over there. I've got 2 Rollies. I bought this one. This one was not given to me. Leo did not send me this for free. I bought this. And once I bought it, he did turn around and say, okay, well, I'm going to give you a little discount on it. So he discounted it for me. The other one I did get whenever I was with the other channel. But having departed from that channel, I buy my stuff from Leo now. I buy from Rolly Automation just like you do. I go to their website and buy it online. And I was about to hit the send button for the infrared, and I just got thinking about it. And I said, other than using it for a video to show its capabilities, what am I going to use this for? Me, nothing. I don't do jewelry creations. I mean, I've done earrings and little cute fun things for, that you might make for the granddaughters and the kids. And, I've made some nice stuff out of some of the premium hardwoods that some of the older ladies bought. But marking metals, it's just not something that I'm into. So I don't have any experience with that at all, Jim. I'm sorry. Chicago Bob says he was considering the Hurricane. Mine was the Akira 48 watt. Okay. Yeah, and I think the A1, Jer says the A1 works great. It sounds bad when you say it takes an hour to print, but but what's good about it is you just have to send it to the printer and forget about it. Yeah, not like the laser where you have to watch it. I don't hover over my laser while it's working. It's behind me working, and I can be working and creating and working on videos or whatever. So I'm not watching it. You don't want to leave your laser unattended running for fear of fire. But I have heard of issues with fires in 3D printers. In fact, there was in my stream the other day, one of those farms where they got 3D printers just one right after the other. Then one of the videos in my stream was one of the 3D printers, caught fire and them running over there with fire extinguishers putting stuff out. So fires are still a possibility. But the A1 was one of the printers that I actually considered, and I actually approached them about trying to get one because it's a pretty rapid printer. Stephen, is a question. Any word on the Galvamatic? I still love my Rolly. Still highly endorse the Rolly. It's one of the best lasers that you can get your hands on. I have had no communication with anybody from Rolly in regards to the Galvamatic. And for reasons that most of you know, I have not seen any videos regarding the Galvamatic. I haven't seen anything on it at all. I'm not involved with helping them release any of the new products. And so I don't have any tech or any dates or anything on it. I've seen the videos from Rolly Automation when Leo posts in the Rolly Automation Facebook group and seen that it's a really cool concept where you've got the Galvo head on the gantry and it's a pretty fast and pretty neat looking machine. But I for that information, you need to go to the Rolly Automation Facebook group or the Rolly Automation page, or just hobowithwood.com/Rolly. It'll get you there. But yeah, I endorse their lasers and strongly recommend their lasers, but I'm not a spokesperson for them in the way that I'm involved in any of their new releases. I wish you could adjust the frequency on the laser-matic diode and cut. Oh, well, you can't cut clear. Well, you can't cut any clear with any diode. Yeah, and it's because I think it's because the colors of the laser, the frequency, it's just going to go straight through and has no effect on it. That's why when I sell, and you're not supposed to do what I do with the paperweights, the crystal paperweights that I sell. You're not supposed to be able to engrave clear. You're not supposed to be able to engrave and or cut clear materials with the diode. But you can engrave the clear crystal hearts that I sell only if they have the tape over the top of them. Can you get the perfect result? And thanks to I've been giving Carl the credit for this because I think he's the one that suggested it in one of the streams. If you buy the clear paperweights, they come pre-taped. You no longer have to buy the tape. They come pre-taped. All you got to do is open the box. And if you buy 10 or more, they come with the jig to sit them in. So you put that in the corner of your laser, drop the crystal paperweight in there. It's already taped up, ready to go. It's going to be level when you put it in the machine. You just got to put your artwork in place. You get the digital jig. It's piece of cake to engrave. In fact, any of you guys that are in the stream now that have bought and used the crystal hearts, flood the stream there with some reviews about your results, about how well that worked. Because I'll give you my suggested settings. They come pre-taped. They work great, but you're not supposed to be able to do that with a diode. But having that tape on the surface that's what the laser is interacting with. to create the engraving and not letting the laser just penetrate all the way through the laser. And it's finding the right speed, the right power, so that it doesn't just blast the tape off and the glue and residue, and then penetrates through and doesn't do anything. So there was a lot of time that I spent in researching to find the right speed and power to get that to work, because it ain't supposed to happen with a diode. It would be interesting to see a program on general jewelry making. Yeah. David, don't go anywhere. Let me step right over here and grab something. Oh, are you still there? So this is a large box, and it's got my logo on there, Hobo wood. And let me take you off there, David. And if we open up this large box, pull this out, in fact, we'll just take it all the way out. Dividers and organizers, and all these are different earrings and earring cards. I used to sell a lot of this. And these, in fact, these were extremely popular, the sunflowers. But, oh, that's got a random one stuck. There we go. I used to do a whole lot of Jeep festivals, Jeep jamborees. So the Jeep logo, a different take on it. Let's see here. Oh, coming to Papa. One of them fell off, but you can see Jeep. I got so many different earrings, it's not even funny. There are a few on the website. Halloween earrings, little bats. But for the amount of time that it takes to create a bunch of stuff like this, and I no longer do shows. I don't have time, and I don't see that getting any better anytime soon. If you're going to do shows and you're going to do that, then yeah, you can make some money doing them, because I was selling those at $10 a pair, and you can make that out of scrap. You don't even need to use your good material to do it with. You can grab your bones. We've all got bones laying around that's got good meat left on it. Grab your bones and you can cut out 8, 9, 10 sets of earrings out of that. Sell them for $10 a pair. But then it's the time that you got to take to put the fish hooks on, and I liked having the jump rings on it. So if you look, it's got the jump ring on the earring, and then a jump ring, and then the fish hook. Oh, oh my goodness. I was asked for this. I didn't just come up with it. Someone asked me to do these, and they sold really, really well. But I don't know what woman wants to run around with little piggies on their ears, but those sold like crazy. I don't know if they sold as gag gifts or what, but it's a lot of work. And if you're doing craft shows, you can make, like I said, make them out of scrap, and you make good money out of them. But when we're not doing shows and It's just not something that I've pursued any longer. All right, so now let's see here. Getting some feedback. I love seeing this. To see Jack. Jack says, I've done at least 25 hearts and the jigs work great and the engravings have always turned out great as well. Yeah. I've tried to make it as simple as possible. Crystal Heart worked the first time. I couldn't figure out the jig though, so I just made it work. Well, Jim, the jig is 4 layers. It's got that. There's one of them that's sits proud. That goes on top. Put that in your home position in your laser. Place the crystal. The hearts are wedge shaped. So you put the heart in there, and that because it's wedge shaped, that step in there will cause it to sit level. So now you've got a level surface for engraving. Put that in the home position on your work screen. And then because I send you the digital file as well, and it's got a template in there showing you where to put your artwork. Put your artwork in that toolpath. Hit send, and you've got the settings in there too. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. If you're still lost and or confused, if you hadn't figured it out, you contact me and I can walk you through real time. Let's see here. Yeah, Chris. Jeep is another one with a tough copyright. You ain't just whistling Dixie. That's why you've not seen any of that on my website, and they're sitting here, and I only did them at local Jeep jamborees. But yeah, you could still have somebody walk up and want to cause trouble for you. Not all the hearts fit in a jig. Had to force some. Well, this and I imagine there are some. They're not all going to be uniform, but it should have been real close. And like I said, if you were able to get them in there, and I go to the trouble to sand all those clean and get them smoothed up. But yeah, that's going to work probably 90% of the time, and a little bit of fudge in there. You got them in there. You got them to work. What thickness material did you use for the earrings? I just used a lot of those are the 3mm Baltic birch. That hobowithwood.com/premium Baltic birch. That is pretty much the only thing that I work with other than my hardwoods. Media assets, note banners. Do I have a banner for that? No, I think I keep saying I'm going to do it and I don't. But hobowithwood.com/premium Baltic birch. That is pretty much the only thing that I work with. If I'm testing a design, sometimes I'll use the cardboard boxes that come in from Amazon. But for the most part, I'm always using that, even with testing the material, because I want to know, is it going to fit right? Is it going to do what I want to do with my material? So anyway, any questions? Any questions? Because we're right at 90 minutes, which is a good time to call it. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Feedback, comment, anything from the peanut gallery? And most of you guys are old enough to recognize that the peanut gallery is a good thing. You were lucky if you were in the peanut gallery. Well, Bob, thank you for all that you do, sir. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for your above and beyond support. Thank you. I don't know if Chuck's here, but Chuck will be in the replay you're watching. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thanks to everybody who has helped me out during these last few months. Thanks, Brad. I I do have a CNC jack. I do, and I'll tell you about that too before we get out of here. Brad says thanks. The bathroom's looking great. I got the last. I used the entire gallon of Kills today. I got all the gallon up, and everything looks good. It's ready for paint. But before I paint, I'm going to do the reinforced fiberglass panels around the shower surround, and get those trimmed to fit, and the moldings on those, and then paint everything on the walls. Jack asked you if I had a CNC. Well, I do have the big X carve in another room. There are a lot of things about it that I don't care for. One, it's noisy. Good God, is it noisy? You need to be wearing ear protection when you're running those things. It has a dust collector on it. It has a shoe on it for picking up, but it's still messy. Those things, you're going to generate a lot of mess. You need to be in a real workshop or a real work environment using those. And I like the idea of being able to make things with the CNC, but that thing's just big. And then even worse yet, I don't like any of the software that's out there. I don't like Easel. I don't like the different programs that are out there, because the stuff that's really good, it's too expensive for a hobbyist, for somebody that's just wanting to do something for fun. I didn't find anything that I could afford to do that I liked. And that's why I was so excited about Lightburn's version for CNC control that never got released. That was the whole reason for not the whole reason, but that was the big reveal for the first light source and the what they call it, the Lightburn Expo. And then they didn't release it. And still haven't. But I bought another. It's through one of the Kickstarters. I jumped on and got the Cubico CNC, and it is a mini desktop, little bitty thing, CNC. And for doing little projects, like if I wanted to do, and the Cubico is going to have an optional laser with it too, sold separately. So it can do CNC engraving, and you can switch out and put the laser module on it, and then you can do laser engraving around the same artwork you just used the router on. So that's coming. I think it's supposed to ship next month. I think it's what it said. And I look forward to playing with that and see what kind of fun things I can create with that CNC. And I seen something on here. Yeah, this is it. We have a celebrity in the house. Steve Smith was in the Peanut Gallery back in the 50s. So he was actually in the Peanut Gallery. So we have a celebrity in the stream. I'm a proud peanut. Yeah, Chris. Millmage says, I have a CNC in separate shed for noise and mess. Oh, and someone let slip Millmage is just weeks away. Well, that would be convenient, because I think it's just weeks away before my Cubico gets here. And I do have a working copy of Millmage, but I'm sure it might be, because it's one of the beta programs, it might be full of bugs or problems. But I do have a copy that I'll play with if Millmage ain't out yet. And having acquired, since I've got the larger CNC and then having this little Cubico coming, I'm hoping that when and if Millmage comes out, I'll have another thing that I can, Hobo with Wood can share with you guys, is helping you guys learn and figure out Millmage. We'll figure it out together. And with an optional, because if you haven't seen the Cubico, I don't know if I can pull up this. There's enough of you here might be interested to see here. Here, and let's look. Do 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 do. Images. Let's go to images. Images. Yeah. All right. Switch. So this is the Cubico. And like I say, it's sitting on the desktop there. And I did get on the super early bird special. In fact, now that I think about it, for you that are still here, some of them jumped off already. And they when I start wrapping it up, a lot of people, and when they do, they miss out on some of the good stuff. I bought 2 of these. I bought 2 of them because I plan to give one of them away. Hopefully it's going to be worth me touting and endorsing and showing you, and then say, hey, great, this is a lot of fun. Now we can do this together and give one of them away. I bought 2 with the intention of giving one away, but it's kind of neat looking. And you guys, go away. You can look up Cubico, Cubiko, and it's a cool little machine. And I'm looking, and like I said, there you can see them picking up out of the box. I mean, it's a desktop item. And I did get there were 2 router options, different powers. I got the larger or the faster ones, the more powerful ones. So and auto, it's not focusing. You're setting the levels or whatever. You know, it's auto leveling. It's got a lot of nice features about it to be a compact little item. So I'm looking forward to that. And if Chris is right and Millmage is actually going to be out, because I'm afraid they're going to hype it up again for the next Lightburn Expo and it not come out again. Chris says I'm tempted to get one. I like I said, I jumped on it with the super early bird special. That's the only reason I could afford to do 2 of them and give one away. Because I got in on the, what do they call that? The when they're trying to do the fundraising. I forget now. I have 3 of the Carve Right machines. They are limited in width to 14 inches, but length is unlimited as long as you can support the material. It feeds by a belt. The software is nearly the same as the software for Lightburn. I don't know what software you're referring to, Jack. You mentioned it, I missed it. I haven't found any software for the CNC that was as inexpensive as Lightburn that I liked. The cheap or the inexpensive CNC control Lightburn software that I found was very, very basic and very, very limiting. Looking there, see. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very small laser too. David says it might be good for jewelry making. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that because, like I said, I've been down that path, and I don't. While I enjoy doing this, I dealt with the public my entire life in far as in the work environment. I've been in retail since I was 16 years old. I don't want to work with the public no more. I don't want to deal with the public no more. The public's what caused my heart attacks and all the stress and like to kill me. And I've done 3 different shows, and I think every one of them I did was a different Jeep show. And that was enough for me to say, ain't gonna do it no more. I did set up a few places where I was doing consignment stuff, and that wasn't so bad. I wouldn't have to deal with the public, but then I'm still having to deal with the owners of the place, and so now I just do a little bit direct to local friends and family. But yeah, Kickstarter. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I got involved with the very first part of the Kickstarter for the fundraising for Cubico, and I was able to get two of them really, really inexpensively, so I could afford to give one of them away. Uh, da- 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 da. Yeah, and that's what I'm counting on, Chris. Chris says that Millmage and Lightburn share a lot of the same code, and I've opened it up and looked at it and played with it, and they look a lot alike. Uh, but because I have such a limited experience with doing CNC work, it's just going to be like when I got my first X-Full laser, and I'm now learning how to use the laser and learning the software was a massive learning curve. And so the process of working with Cubico, and I don't even know what kind of software they say that it works with about anything that's out there already. So, and I imagine it's going to have some little operational software that's going to be very, very limited. But it'll be nice if Millmage gets released very soon, so I can legitimately document that whole learning curve process with those who are interested in learning how to do that. Don't bother with the giveaway. Just send it to me. Yeah, I hear you. Uh, okay. Well, crafting with Gene. Gene says, yep. Well, you're late, but I'm really late because I was supposed to have been at 3 p.m. this afternoon, and it's too much to do. All right, guys. Chris says most hobby CNC use Gerbil, and yeah. Uh, will work with just about any software. I get any software designed to work in 3D, right? I mean, you got to be able to send it the commands to change your height and engraving heights and all that, and that's what I was really wanting to do. I was wanting to do some 3D, and having that the variable depths, and I've got all kinds of bits. I've got just I think anything that you can get for the X Carve, I've got it. Just did not like any of the software. Nothing. Well, I tell you what, I, I unfortunately drink entirely too much of that, and this is not a commercial. I have to buy these every week. Well, not every week because I go buy them once a month. They sell these at my local dollar store, the Dollar General. And they sell them for $1.25 because nothing's $1 anymore at the dollar store, but $1.25 for a 2 liter. And I'll walk in, and they won't let you take their buggies outside, so I push a buggy in with me. They're in the same shopping center as Walmart, so I'll take a Walmart buggy into Dollar General and put 24 to 30 of these in the buggy, and then push my buggy back out to my truck. I'll buy a month's supply at one time. Wayne, I looked at a bunch of those. I had Easel. I think I had VCarve, and I even had quite a few of them. I was able to turn that off. I was able to convince a few of the software manufacturers to give me like a 90-day trial of the full version to see if it was something that I really wanted to invest in before I bought it. Because I was explaining to them if it was something I was going to be using, then I would be promoting it on the channel as well. So they said, yeah, we'll give you the 90-day license, see what you think. I just didn't like a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do. I can't remember. Chris, is Fusion, is it, no. What is the Cadillac software out there for CNC? What is the Cadillac? I knew it. My cousin uses it, but it's the license on it's like $300 or $400 a month or something crazy. It's ridiculous. But that's what I want. I want to have those capabilities, but I don't want no $300. Is it V-Carve? Chris says Vectric Expire, but one of them is ridiculously expensive. Nuts. And Aspire, y'all going back and forth about which one. How much is V-Carve? Put in there V-Carve is what are you paying a month, and how much is Aspire? How much are you paying a month? Because some of them were monthly subscriptions I seen, and I'm like, yeah, I ain't doing that. And if I was making money, yeah, $2,000 for the lifetime, yeah. I'm a hobbyist. Yeah, I've got V-Carve $8,000, Aspires $2,000. Yeah, see, yeah, $2,000 for a lifetime. You got to be a hobbyist can't afford that. Your average hobbyist can't afford that. Yeah, you got to be making some pretty serious projects and selling some good items monthly to justify that, unless you got just deep pockets. Or and I'm not even married, and I can't afford that. I can't imagine being married and just doing it as a hobby and going in the kitchen and saying, honey, I'm gonna drop $2,000 on this software so I can go play with my toy. Aspires $1,000 a year. Yeah. Some of them were just nuts. I'm just not doing it. Ain't gonna happen. All right, guys. I pay $120 a year for Carbide Create. It has served me well for my needs. They have a free version, but it's limited. Yeah, and wrong one. Carveco's $15 a month. That was Jeff that said that, talking about the Carbide Create. Yeah, for that price, it would have to make dinner and clean the house too. Yep. Well, and speaking of that, I mentioned the bronze, silver, and gold tier on Patreon, but there is a fourth one. There is the platinum. You can become a platinum patron on Patreon. The platinum is a sponsor level, a level at $5,000 a month, and that's so I can afford to get these subscriptions. But if you become a platinum member at $5,000 a month, I will come to your house once a month to help you with any projects you need, walk you through, do whatever needs to be done, and fix your dinner. And that's on Patreon. If you don't believe me, you go check it out. I'll come to your house once a month, help you with all your projects and fix your dinner, and talk to you until you're blue in the face about engraving. And Chris, that goes for you too. Chris says platinum, I'll have to wait until he wins the lotto. That's fine. You win the lotto and you sign up, I'll even fly to Australia once a month and fix your dinner. And actually, you know what? Astra, I might be able to come up with a little bit of a discounted price for you for a platinum level since you're down in the islands. That has its own appeal. So I might give you, you could probably sign up for about $4,000 a month, and I'll fly down to the islands and fix dinner for you. I don't know if you'd like my cooking down, because mine is, I don't have a good recipe for any kind of jerk. So I don't know if that's your palate, what you like. You'd have to like some Southern cooking, but I do some pretty good Mexican flavors too. No fried chicken. No, I do not. I don't like fried chicken. Uh, Los Angeles to Sydney round trip per person ends Monday, $848. All right. And Brad's wrapping it up for us. He's good night to everybody and take care. And I want to say the same thing. Thank you all for hanging out. I hope that you found what we discussed informative. If you were late to the show and you didn't get to see what I talked about, and I'll be perfectly honest with all of you that are still here. That idea that I had with changing this to make this the actual artwork and not an easel, that came to me 5 minutes before going live. God's good. I didn't have any idea what I was going to talk about other than just how this works and how I put it together and to answer those few questions. But then, boom, he said, hey, change that. Don't use this. Don't use any other material. Make that the artwork. It'll be a self-supporting piece of artwork. Shrink it, make multiple pieces out of one piece. You got, $1 in it or even 50 cents in it and make big money. So if you didn't see that in this part of the live, you need to go back and watch the replay. Because that's good. That's a really, really good idea. Jim says, I saw your platinum levels. Jim's, it's true. It's out there. RC Cola burn they all burn when they come out your nose, man. That ain't what it's for. You ain't supposed to do that. Well, thank you, Ashra. I appreciate you. Ashra. It's one of those. Ashra. I'm going to go with Ashra. But thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Now, really, let's wrap this up. We was going to do it 23 minutes ago, and we're still talking. Y'all can keep me here all night. But there is some really good information. So if you weren't here for it, go back, watch the replay, and I'll see you. I don't know what time it's going to be next week. It should be, if we're on the regular schedule, next week should be 9 p.m. And to be quite honest with you, with everything I've got going on, it may still have to. I may have to make this a regular late thing until I get my world straightened out. Until I quit. Do you guys remember Stretch Armstrong? The toy Stretch Armstrong? Well, that's what I feel like right now. If you're not familiar with Stretch Armstrong, if they didn't have Stretch Armstrong down in Australia, Google that when we get off here. Look up Stretch Armstrong toy, and that's exactly what I feel like. And until I can quit being Stretch Armstrong, this may be a regular routine. So thank you all for your support. You all have a great night and a great week, and I hope all your wishes and dreams come true, and everybody stays healthy, wealthy, and wise. Have a good night, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.